Hello friends, my name is Sapna Tanwar to be a company secretary. So, from last 1 year we all have been hearing about GST, and now since GST is rolling out from July this year, we all must know some of the key aspects of GST. In today's video, I will be covering what GST is, proposed rates of GST, why do we need GST, how to register under it, its impact on our pockets and some other aspects of it. So what GST is? GST stands for Goods and Services Tax. It was introduced by the 122nd Constitutional Amendment Bill in year 2016. Before moving to GST, first let us understand our tax structure in India. We have got two types of taxes, direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct taxes are those taxes the burden of which is directly borne by the consumer. Example, income tax, corporate tax and wealth tax. Indirect taxes are those taxes the burden of which is not directly borne by the consumer. Example, excise duty, custom duty, service tax, octroi tax, VAT, etc. Now, what are the taxes proposed to be subsumed in GST? There are various taxes at central level and state level which are proposed to be subsumed in GST. Example, excise duty, service tax, VAT, entertainment tax, luxury tax, lottery, betting and gambling tax, octroi tax, purchase tax and so on. So, why we felt the need for GST? Because we have got certain shortcomings in our current tax system. Number 1. Tax cascading effect. What is tax cascading? Tax cascading is when we are paying tax on tax. For example, I am buying a product for let's say rupees 100. Now I have to pay excise duty on it, let's say 12%. Further, I will be paying VAT on it, let's say 10%. Now I will be paying VAT on 112 instead of rupees 100. So here I am paying tax on tax. Next is complexity. It is very difficult to understand and comply such vast and complicated tax laws which are multiple in number. Next is no uniform structure. There should be followed a uniform tax structure which is more understandable and more convenient for common man. Number 4. Corruption. Escaping tax compliances under different tax laws and finding loopholes becomes easy because of complex structure giving rise to tax evasion and corruption. Now, what are the advantages of GST? Whether it is able to cover the shortcomings of the present tax structure or not, let's find out. Is input tax credit at all levels. That is, we get credit of the taxes paid at each level and hence we are not paying tax on tax, eliminating the cascading effect. Next, reduce statutory compliances. When we are registered under one tax instead of so many different taxes, automatically the compliances will be reduced. Number 4, better tax collection. As the center and state will have their own powers, their revenue will be generated multiple times and for both of them. Next, it facilitates the ease of doing business also. The proposed model of GST is divided into three categories: CGST, SGST and IGST. CGST will be charged by the center, SGST will be charged by the state and IGST will be charged both by the center and state. Now, how does GST works? I have shown here a simple illustration. I am taking a product A under the current VAT system and the proposed GST system. I keep the basic price 100 in both the cases. In VAT system, I will be paying 12 rupees excise duty and 14 rupees VAT, which is not applicable of course in GST system. Next we come to state GST and center GST. That is rupees 8 and 12 which I am paying in GST system. Total tax burden comes out to rupees 26 in VAT system and 20 rupees in GST system. Hence the value of products becomes cheaper in GST system as compared to the current VAT system. Now what are the proposed rates of GST? It is divided into 5 broad categories. 0% is kept for the goods which are common use items such as food, grains, etc. 5% is kept for mass consumption items like spices and mustard oil. 12% is kept for processed food and 18% is kept for FMCG goods like soaps, toothpaste, refrigerator, etc. And 28% is kept for ultra-luxurious demerit and sin goods like tobacco, aerated drinks, etc. So friends, let's discuss who are the persons liable to take a registration under the model GST law. First, any supplier who carries on any business at any place in India and whose aggregate turnover exceeds threshold limit. Second, certain categories of persons mentioned in Schedule 3 of Model GST law. Let's see what are the categories. Persons making any interstate taxable supply, casual taxable persons, persons who are required to pay tax under reverse charge, non-resident taxable persons, persons who are required to deduct tax under Section 37, persons who supply goods and or services on behalf of other registered taxable persons, whether as an agent or otherwise, input service distributor, persons who supply goods and or services other than branded services through electronic commerce operator, every electronic commerce operator, an aggregator who supplies services under his brand name or his trade name, and such as a person or class of persons as may be notified by the central government or a state government on the recommendations of the council. Friends, please note that an agriculturist shall not be considered as a taxable person and shall not be liable to take registration. Now, when does liability for GST registration arises? So friends, in northeastern India, when your aggregate turnover is rupees 9 lakhs, you have to register for GST. And your liability to payment arises when your aggregate turnover reaches rupees 10 lakhs. In rest of India, liability to register arises when your aggregate turnover is rupees 19 lakhs and liability for payment of tax arises when your aggregate turnover reaches 20 lakhs. Now, how to register under GST? Is it very difficult? So no friends, it is not very difficult. Here I have given the simple GST registration process. You just have to fill the form GST registration 1 on GSTN portal and complete the verification in part A. After verification through O2P acknowledgement will be received in form GST registration 2 electronically. Applicant needs to fill part B of form GST registration 1 and specify the application reference number. Submit the form after attaching required documents. Form GST registration 3 will be issued if additional information is required. Applicant needs to respond in form GST registration 4 with required information within 7 working days from the date of receipt of form GST registration 3. If the form received is satisfactory, registration certificate shall be granted in form registration 6. If the information received is not satisfactory, the registration application is rejected using form GST registration 5. Applicant who is required to deduct TDS or collect TCS shall submit an application in form GST registration 7 for registration. Now, as I talked, you have to attach certain documents also for registration. Let's see what are the documents. PAN card of the company or LLP, proof of constitution like your partnership deed, MOA, AOA or certificate of incorporation, copy of bank statement, details and proof of place of business, cancel check of your bank account showing your bank details, authorized signatory like list of partners or list of directors, whatever is applicable, copy of board resolution and declaration to comply with the provisions. Now, the most important question is here. Will GST make things cheaper? So friends, there are both sides to it. There are certain things which are expected to be cheaper. FMCG goods like shampoo, chocolate, small cars or DTH connections, etc. are expected to be cheaper. On the other hand, unfortunately, some things are expected to be costlier also. Example, luxury cars, tobacco, textiles, etc. Next is opportunity for professional. So friends, we have seen GST as the biggest tax reform in the nation. Now it is the time to take it as the biggest opportunity for yourselves and professionals like company secretaries, chartered accountants, CMAs, and in fact students who are doing such professional courses. It is a big time opportunity for them to grab GST and make it their own subject. So let's move towards GST One tax, one nation. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope this video was useful in providing the gist of GST. Please do like and share the video if you like it. Thank you.